On today's podcast, we dive into the world of fashion and music with the incredible Dina Cerchione. With over 30 years of experience, Dina shares her journey from the fashion industry to styling some of the biggest names in music. We explore how personal style and brand identity can make or break an artist's image and why it's critical for success in today's market. Plus, she takes us behind the scenes on how she transforms an artist's look from good to great and how you can do the same. Don't miss out on this fascinating discussion that could change how you think about style forever. Insiders, are you ready?
Welcome to MUBUTV's Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage artists and music business professionals who are dedicated to having a successful career in the new music industry. Here are your hosts, Rich Ezra and Eric Knight. Welcome back, Insiders, to another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage your music career. In today's fascinating episode, we are thrilled to be joined by Dina Cerchione, a stylist with over 3 decades of experience in Hollywood. In her raw and inspiring interview, Dina shares how personal style and brand identity are essential in crafting an authentic image in today's competitive market. She also delves into her 6-step process for working with clients and how transforming your wardrobe can transform your life. Whether you're an artist looking to stand out or simply want to show up with confidence, this conversation is packed with insights you won't want to miss. Get ready to discover how your image can tell your story and connect with your audience in an unforgettable way. So grab your headphones and settle in for an episode that will have you rethinking your clothes and how you present yourself to the world. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Hey, Insiders! Are you an aspiring musician, artist, band, or future music business professional looking to take your career to the next level? Well, look no further. At MUBUTV, we offer personalized career counseling and coaching designed specifically for folks like you.
Imagine having both of us by your side, guiding you through every step of your music journey. Our sessions are tailored to meet your unique needs, focusing on critical aspects of your music career, such as refining your songs, defining your artist story, identifying your target audience, and enhancing your social media presence, just to name a few.
Whether you're just starting out or looking to elevate your existing career, we've got you covered. Our comprehensive approach ensures you get insights on everything from live shows to branding and marketing strategies. We understand that every artist is unique. That's why our coaching is personalized just for you.
And here's the best part. We offer flexible coaching packages that fit any budget. Choose from individual sessions ranging from 30 to 90 minutes or save with our discounted 4-session packages. Experience custom sessions designed to enhance your music career with opportunities for greater savings when you choose bundled sessions. Investing in your musical journey has never been more accessible.
Imagine the clarity and direction you'll gain after just one session. The feedback on your songs, the strategies to grow your audience, and the confidence to perform live, all tailored just for you.
So why wait? Don't let uncertainty hold you back. Join us for your free 15-minute discovery call at book.mubutv.com for a transformative coaching experience that will elevate your music career. That's book.mubutv.com. So Rich, Muse Expo 2025 is coming up this year. It's the 25th anniversary. Super excited. We're going to be there, and we're hoping all of our insiders will be there.
Absolutely. This is the 25th anniversary of my absolute favorite music conference. I met Sat Bisla, I think it was like 26 years ago, before he even did the first one. I have been to every single
That's incredible.
one
It's
that they have
unbelievable.
done, okay, in the 25 years. I have moderated panels for him at the conference. It has been, an educational journey for me. It's been an incredible conference that provides wonderful insight and wonderful kinds of information to people who attend it. We hope that all of you will join us there. It's coming up March 17th, 18th, and 19th at the Castaways in Burbank. And to learn more about it, you just got to go to MuseExpo. That's MuseExpo.net.
Yeah, it's a great conference. I always love when you and Sat get together because I know I always joke about it. I always relate you guys to like the Oracle inside of the movie The Matrix, because you guys, between both of you, know everyone. As far as I'm concerned, you guys know everybody in the industry, and it's amazing. They have an amazing staff besides Sat. You've got Monty, Joe, Dusty, Sat's wife, William, all the people from Castaways. Muse Expo has been a big integral part of our success in our career. This is
Very
probably
much
like our
so.
10th one, maybe 11th one, I think, that we've been to recording. And they've been an incredible partner to us for many, many years.
Absolutely. We can't thank Sat enough for being that partner. He's been an incredibly supportive. Sat is also somebody who believes in the value of education and has dedicated his life to educating artists, to helping artists, to exposing them. And Sat also is somebody who, unlike a lot of other people in the world, sees the value of music on an international basis.
Right.
Which
is the focus of Muse Expo.
Exactly. It's called the United Nations of Music Conferences. And there's a reason for that, because you're going to hear from people from England, from Germany, from France, from Australia, from other parts of the world that come to this conference. It's a very, very important conference for that reason. And there's a lot of great value that you will get if you attend.
Yeah, and we have some amazing guests that are lined up. Adam Brodsky, Adrian Sosa, Alexandria Patsavis, which is like, the goddess of all music supervisors.
Yeah.
Ben Dorenfeld, which we've had on the show before, Eitan Ben-Horon. The list goes on and on and on. So we urge you guys to go check out museexpo.net. That's MUSEXPO.net and pick up your tickets. It's coming up soon, and we'd love to see you there.
Absolutely. Definitely check it out. That's museexpo.net on March 17th, 18th, and 19th. We hope to see you there.
So just a quick programming note, we're going to be coming out with our new season of videos coming up later this year in the fall. So we just wanted to give everybody a heads up that we're going to be taking a break on the videos for the next few months as we're preparing and getting ready for our new season coming later in the fall.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, insiders, you got to know what we have got coming up is really the best of what we have. Absolutely, Eric. And what's so exciting is the content that we have coming up for you insiders is among the best that we've ever done. We have covered a lot of great new areas. We've gotten a lot of international contacts. You're going to get information on areas that we have not covered in the past before. So a lot of great value is coming up on all of the video episodes that we're going to debut on the new season beginning in this fall. Today's featured guest is stylist Dina Cerchione. This was a very, very interesting conversation for a couple reasons, Eric.
Yeah.
Number one, we have never had a conversation
with
about this with a stylist, which I think is a very, very important component. We've not discussed that yet. It's extremely important in terms of the presentation of an artist's. We've talked about the creative elements, their music. This is all about how people are perceived.
Yeah.
And to me, it goes right along with who are you?
Right. Yeah.
What are you about?
Exactly.
Where are you coming from? What do you stand for? I mean, a lot of times style and your own personal style can be represented. Those questions can be answered with style, or certainly be a contributing part that contributes the answers to your fan base of who you are. And one of the things that I thought was most interesting in the conversation was when she talked about shopping and making selections with intention. Understand, and that's a very specific kind of thing, meaning understanding who and what you are, that artists should avoid arbitrary shopping and just instead focus on pieces that align with their own brand and their own identity, which means they need to give some thought to that before just, this is cool, or this.
Right.
And yet it may not have anything to do with aligning.
It's something that I can speak to because we've done it, you and I, with MUBUTV when we were doing our thing. And I've done it with my previous projects and, the whole, and then even now with my current project and what the look that I was going for and everything. It's super important. And it's the whole idea, and I'm segueing into what I thought was important, the importance of image, and is what you're saying. An artist's image is integral to their marketing and brand identity, serving as the first impression to the audience. So it's really crucial when you are starting to come out as an artist, what is that initial presentation going to be? And I mean, that doesn't mean that you have to stay with that look the rest of your life. You're going to obviously evolve as you do, as you get older and as you change and you grow up and all those things. But it's ideal of what is that initial impact that you're making. And I can't stress how important this is. And it's really great that we had Dina on the show, because it is an area that we've never discussed, but yet it's really an important one, because even with you and I, for branding and getting everything set up with MUBUTV, you know, we went through painstaking things where we went shopping, and we kind of had ideas of what we were the look and the idea of, the whole yin and yang of you and I and what that represented. And, I always, and I don't know why this comes to mind now, but I think about Billie Eilish for whatever reason right now that pops into my head. You look at Billie Eilish and that look that she has, which is kind of like, the shorts and the big shirt and, the oversized clothes, it represents who, in a way, that audience is, not only does it relate to the audience, but she's giving that out, but in a weird way, she is part of what that audience is and how they're discovering. And that's exactly to the point that you're just saying now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's conveying a sense of who she is, what her values are, what her values aren't. She wasn't leading with form-fitting clothes and look at me kind of thing.
And you're not articulating that in words or music, but just in the way that you look. So it's an interesting, unique difference that we've never done before. We never talked about before.
Absolutely. And it's done through, like you were saying, stylistic choices in terms of image and the styling that you wear on your body. And, you have to be aware. Style is something that I've always been conscious of for myself, because I'm a heavy set guy. I've always been conscious of, do I look right in this kind of, it's like, I like certain things, but then I look and I think I can't pull that off. I'm too heavy or whatever. So you have to be very real about what works for you. And you and I have had those discussions about what you think looks good in terms of the presentation and what it is that we want to convey. In other words, the thought and the philosophy behind it.
And I remember there was a little struggle. I had to force you. Like I said, Rich, you got to get out of your comfort. I mean, a little bit is too taking risk and taking chances, but does it make sense within the context of what you're doing? And that's what you're illustrating with that.
Absolutely. And it is very important. And, I'm always aware that a lot of times my choices are not in alignment of what I want to convey. So it's been a very, very important lesson for me personally. So I can just speak to this from just my own personal, and I'm not an artist. I'm not, developing a look but in a way, as a public figure or doing presentations on video or at conferences or whatever, it is important because that is being conveyed who I am.
And with that, insiders, sit back, relax, and enjoy our featured conversation with Dina Cerchione.
Dina, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. I want to start out. What inspired you to become a stylist, and when did you know that this was going to be your professional career path?
It's funny. It's sort of like it found me rather than me finding it. I've been styling for 30 years, and I always say I kind of fell into it. I had been working in New York in the fashion industry. I actually thought I wanted to open up a boutique or something like that. I always kind of liked clothes and things like that. But when I came out to LA, I ended up working for a manufacturer that closed down. I was on the wholesale side. They closed down, and he said, "Hey, there's this lady with all your contacts in New York that you might want to work for. Her name is Leslie Nichols, and she provides clothing trade outs for television." And I was like, what is that? And so remember at the end of the show, it used to see, not so much anymore because things are done differently now. So-and-so's clothing provided by, it was that thing. And we were setting those up. And that's where I found out that stylists even existed. So it wasn't even on my radar that this was a thing because, I'm a Jersey girl. My dad had a trucking company. What did I know? And when I started setting up these trade outs and working with the stylist, I was like, that's what I want to do. And so when one of the next shows came in to that office, another woman that I work with, we were like, you know what, let's just pitch rather than just get the merchandise and the clothes for it. Let's pitch that we also style it. And that's where it started. They hired us immediately, and it went on from there, and I never looked back. I just fell in love with it.
Dina, so glad to have you on the show. I wanted to ask you, how do you define the relationship between personal style and brand identity, and why do you believe it's so critical for success in today's market?
Oh, for me, it's huge. And, I always say to everybody, your image is part of your marketing and your brand. And I don't care if you're selling music or selling yourself for a date. We're all selling something, right? And the way we look, very much the first thing that people see and they get to understand about us. And it's the very first way that we get to tell the story of who we are. And I very strongly believe in telling the story with your clothes. And that doesn't mean like, Hansel and Gretel story, but it's like, who are you? Like when you look at, think of musicians, right? When you look at somebody who's in a rock, band versus somebody who's in like a pop band, like they're gonna look different, So that's what I mean when you're talking about telling your story. It's for me like marketing all the time, and it also not only is it telling other people, but I also feel like it really reinforces to us who we are every day when we put that stuff on. It's kind of like our armor. It's like when I put certain things on, and I kind of change my vibe when I go different places, but I'm putting that on in a way that speaks to when I show up in this room, people are going to see me as X. And that's what I really believe people need to do. It's not just getting dressed. You're really putting on like who you are and who you want the world to see. And we do that every day. And I think, like I said, whether you actually are, actively marketing yourself or not, you're actually always on. And people are always, I want to say, judging you. I try to say more assessing you, because lots of times people don't even know that they're doing it, right? You just see an image of somebody and you think in your head immediately, they're this or they're that, based on all our previous connections to whatever that look is, right? And we don't want to give somebody the wrong impression of who we are based on how we look. We want everything to be cohesive. So in my world, I feel like everything needs to be cohesive, like what we're trying to portray, how we want to feel, and how we want the world to see us. So it's just it's also very personal. I mean, it's called personal style for a reason, right? There's so many people that, this is, you guys are all about music. Think about people that are going out there and doing things differently or doing things the same. You can tell a story in one of two ways, right? I'm the country guy who looks like the country artist the second you see him, or I'm like, think of like a jelly roll, right? Kind of getting into the country scene now. It's like he does not look like a country singer. So it's like, what's the story you want to tell by what it is you're wearing?
Yeah, what's interesting about what you're saying is it changes people's perception of you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, I wear regular, sweatpants and t-shirts most every day, but when I do professional things, I get dressed in a very specific kind of way with, shoes and the pants and the shirts and the jacket and the accoutrements and all of that, and my hair is cut and stuff, and the reaction of people is completely different. I am perceived in an entirely different way that I am not in my ordinary daily life.
Exactly. And I would say, and again, take that one step further, when you put those clothes on in that particular way, you are putting on like, that hat, right? Like literally putting on that hat that's like, I'm this person now. You're always the same person. But when you go out in a venue where people are like seeing you or you need to be seen, when you put the clothes on, you feel it stronger, right? It's like, okay, this is the mode I'm in now, right? When you're at home and you're sweats and you're doing, all the things you do, you're still the same person. But I feel like it just pushes us also. It's like that personal acknowledgement, like, oh, that's right. This is who I am right now. And this is how I need to be.
Precisely.
And I love that you get that. I love that you get that already.
Absolutely. Can you describe the process that you follow when working with a new client? I believe you have a 6-step process.
Yeah. So I kind of do. I have a couple of ways to work with people. I do work one-on-one with people in person, and I work virtually. I have a smaller thing to kind of get people who can't take the big dive into the whole personal styling thing, but want to do it on their own. And the process is essentially the same, except for the fact that with the one-on-ones, I'm doing all the legwork, and with the other one, you're not. But it really starts with the same. A lot of it starts with, I have to understand who you are. And me understanding who you are means you have to understand who you are. So literally with a questionnaire. How do you want to be seen? How do you want the world to see you? What are the things that make you think that, right? So like, and visuals. So it starts with a questionnaire, but it's also like, show me the things that you like, that you've seen yourself in. Like, just show me pictures. And I don't care if it's 10 years ago or if it's, something that doesn't even relate to what you're doing. So if it's like something fancy, or if it's like at the beach or wherever it is, I just want to get a feel for like what your psyche is. And also there's always, look at the images that people are giving me, there always to be some sort of thread. like that I can pull out that maybe that they can't pull out. So I kind of take that intel and then I talk it through with people. Like, this is what I'm getting. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm feeling. You know, where do you want to end up? It's because we're starting, when I work with people, they're starting from someplace and they want to get somewhere else, right? So how am I going to get them there? So we go through that. And then what I do is I do a physical, you know, well, it's digital, but a representation of what I think that looks like. And I basically a mood board that I make. And I pull all the, you know, whatever they've said in the questions, whatever styles that they've said that they like on themselves, whatever styles. I'm always like, who's your celebrity icon? Because that's also something that kind of helps to identify things. And what are the other, who do you follow? What are the things? And once I get all the visuals and I walk through and I put together this mood board for them, and then I take it back to them and say, like, where are we? Is this? And they're, you know, not gonna lie, I'm pretty good at it. People are like, oh my God, that's so me, you know? But when you see it in that way and you kind of, I feel like style is this kind of elusive thing. Like, people think I either have it or I don't. And everybody has a style, right? It's just a matter of shaping it. Some people that we consider have style, they have taken the time to shape it into something they want it to be, rather than everybody else has a style that looks like they just grabbed this and that out of the hamper and they put it on and went out, right? So this physical representation, really, they all of a sudden can see, yes, the things that I think and the things that I feel, that's how I want it to be. And so then from there, again, the one-on-one work, I'll then start shopping and I'll go and, you know, find things. We do fittings and all of that stuff. Or the style strategy, I'll then, you know, send people like links. It's like when you have that board, it becomes easy. Because I always say too, one of the things you want to do is break down, like when you can kind of see things, you know, like when you have this mood board, you can break it down. Oh, I see that guy. So he's got a blazer on. Oh, I can see that thing. It's always like a distressed jean, or it's a boot, or it's whatever it is, you know? And so it really helps you to break down the pieces that you need to make it happen. And then I would send them, you know, some links to shopping things and recommend particular brands that are in a vein, right? Because there are definitely, when you have a particular style or image, brands that speak to it better than others, or stores that speak to it better than others, you know? And that's kind of how it goes. And then they walk away really understanding who they are, how to make that happen. You know, it's a very sort of tangible thing at the end. It's like, it's a roadmap of how to get there, you know, and get you started on your way, clearly understanding your style.
Dina, when we're speaking about recording artists and bands, what role does personal style play in building an authentic image and identity?
I mean, I think it's huge. Again, you know, thinking about this before we were here, and think about like Stones and the Beatles were coming up, right? Like, think of the Beatles in those Beatles suits, and then think of the Stones in their thing. Like, two very, you know, British bands coming from the same era, all the things, but they look so different, right? So one of the things about it is it really helps you establish a strong identity. And again, I go back to, it tells the story of who you are, right? So if whatever your genre of music is, you're the one that's going along with that genre, right? I'm the country artist wearing the country clothes, or not, right? And in that way, it can help differentiate you from other people in the industry, right? So you're thinking about, do I want to look like the norm of my industry, or do I want to stand out? And it also, I think, one of the things is it helps create kind of connection with your audience, right? So like, it's that whole, your vibe attracts your tribe, right? And I talk about this a lot because I'm really into music. So I'm always like talking about music with style. And because I think it's one of those things where it's shown time and time again. So if you go to a show that's like a rap show versus a K-pop show versus a rock show, the people there are all dressed differently. They're dressed like the genre of the music that they're going to see. So I think when you're thinking as a musician, that's part of it, right? And I'm not suggesting dress so that people can follow you like clones, but it happens. And it's something that it already exists. So why wouldn't you take advantage of that tool? You know, I look at it as a tool in that way.
Dina, I want to ask you, you know, when you're working with clients who may feel unsure or insecure about their personal style, how do you help them gain confidence in their appearance?
I think one of the things is that see themselves, you know, one of my favorite parts of a fitting, and, you know, this goes whether we're doing one-on-one or when I'm working with somebody kind of virtually, once somebody puts on something that feels right, it automatically comes. So the insecurity goes away because now they're seeing themselves in a new light. Like, I can't tell you, when I put something on somebody and they kind of get it, they see the possibility of who they can be, and they see the transformation, and all of a sudden, like, the shoulders go back, the smile starts to get a little, they get almost like, once a little cocky in the mirror, they're like, oh, look at me, kind of goes away. But it's most of the people that come to me are obviously looking for a result, right? So they want something to change. They know that they don't have their styles down, and they want that change. So they're open to, I always say you have to be open to it, right? But I use that phrase from that movie, The Santa Claus, you put on the suit and you're the guy. Once people start to put the stuff on, then they can see themselves way, and then it starts to fall away. Then the insecurities and the unsureness and all those things start to go away, because literally all it takes is putting on different clothes. Like, it sounds so, I always, I almost want to come up with a different word, because I feel like the word style has a thing to it that some people think it's not attainable. And it sounds so like fashion-y. It sounds so like bougie.
Well, it's transformational.
Like, no, it's transformational. It is transformational. Yeah. It is transformational. And the truth of it is, it's just clothes. So get a different shirt. It's that easy. Like I say, I can transform anyone in like 5 minutes. It's just picking different things. And then sometimes it does take a second to get used to it. I had actually an artist that I worked with, and it was a musician, and the label was wanting her to kind of be in a particular lane because they said the music seemed like that. So we kind of dressed her in that way, and she ended up loving it. But then she did get a little bit insecure about it. And then I'm like, sometimes I see her in it and sometimes I don't see her in it. I think it's a muscle. So once you start to dress differently, you have to, like anything, have the notion that you're going to continue down this path. Like, when I do this, this is what the result that I get. And then start to get yourself just comfortable with it. Because like anything, it changes, change is hard sometimes. And if you've never done this or never been into it, it's going to feel weird sometimes. But then once you start to like get the compliments, like you say, people react to you differently when you show up, when you put all that stuff on. They will. And it's always going to be, in a pot. Well, I don't know, always, but generally speaking, it's positive, So that's what I think about that.
Hey, Insiders, we hope that you've been enjoying our featured conversation. Stay tuned, because we've got so much value coming your way. But before we dive back in, a word from our sponsor.
Hey, Eric, as an artist, what do you find are the most challenging aspects to a music career, especially when you're starting out?
Well, I think one of the first things is just trying to get the direction of who you are as an artist, where you want to go, where you want to be. And, we've talked about it on the show a lot. Who is your target audience? Who you are? What do you stand for? What do you believe in? What do you think would resonate with an audience? And so those are some of the things that I would feel being a new artist. Obviously, what I know now is different because I know these things. But for people that are out there, like our audience, that don't have necessarily any direction to go, would be the first things that I would start off with.
And having the songs that
Absolutely.
Incorporate those elements that you're speaking of into it. That's so important today.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why we started MUBUTV and why we started this new consulting service that we're offering to all of our insiders out there, because that is another one of the big things. I mean, that is the big thing, is like having the great songs. That's what it really starts off. Our friend Don Grierson always said, it always starts with a great song. So that's probably, besides putting together what your audience and what your target audience is the single most important thing. Where are your songs at currently today? Are you collaborating with people? Are you trying to go out to networking events where you can connect with other songwriters and stuff like that? So
yeah, and what are your strengths?
Exactly.
Are you a strong lyric writer? Are you a strong melody writer? Are you a strong musician, a player?
Right.
And it's really important to get really strong clarity on those issues before proceeding.
I totally agree, Rich. And, with our consulting services, we offer a myriad of different packages and we've made it super affordable for everybody. So, if you guys are interested out there in connecting with us on a coaching call, you can visit book.mubutv.com and start off with a free 15-minute discovery call.
Well, yeah, absolutely. We start with an initial 15-minute call where we can get a sense of who you are, what are the issues that you specifically have, and want to work on.
Exactly.
And we can go from there. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we tailor everything to your needs. It's not like a cookie cutter thing. We kind of really want to get to know who you are as an artist, where you at today, what's the snapshot of you as an artist today, and then start trying to craft something that's tailor-made for you. So again, if you're interested, visit us at book.mubutv.com for your 15-minute discovery call. We can speak to that a little bit when we did the transformation with you, Rich, when we did all this stuff, getting everything ready for MUBUTV, and when we were launching, we did a whole transformation with Rich, and it was, I think you told me you had a lot of people that just came up to you immediately, just the haircut and everything just changed everything, the way you looked, everything.
The styling of the hair, the beard trim, the manicure, the manicured my beard, and I mean, all of it, and the outfit. I mean,
I became his personal stylist.
Right, exactly.
Love that, you guys.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I know firsthand to see the transformation, and just seeing the reaction that you would tell me, Rich, that people were coming up to you and like you look like a completely different human.
Person. Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess also you carry yourself differently.
Right.
You just
more pride, more. I mean, not that you didn't have pride before, but I'm saying it's just when people are like, you're not fishing for compliments. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
And it's also, I've been around a lot of artists and musicians and people my whole life in my career. And it is fascinating when you will see, I worked with Whitney Houston when she was on Arista. And my very first meeting with her, she was in jeans and a t-shirt and sneakers with absolutely no makeup and a tiny little afro. She was like 19 years old.
Right.
And, I mean, there are very few pictures of her from that era.
Right.
But, then you'd see her like 4 or 5 days later on a TV show. And my God, it was like literally like you're talking about, Dina.
She was naturally beautiful, but it's
not only the beauty, but it's the whole image,
package,
the artistry, the it's like, whoa. Like, wow.
Yeah. They gave her that star quality.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. I work on America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
And Simon Cowell, obviously one of the judges, knows his music. And, there's so many times, bands will come out or, single performers or whatever. And sometimes, Simon's always like, I love all of it. You've got the star quality. And he always mentions how they look. Like the voice is there. He's like, but the way you're dressed and the way, even the shoes, anything like that. And then sometimes what'll happen is as the show will progress, the people that are, changing them and kind of elevating, cause that's part of the thing, right? They elevate. He's like, you're losing it now. You're losing that thing that was authentic to you. Don't do that. Don't go down that path. Like that was what made me cool. And then there are others that come in that don't have any style. And he's like, once we change up the look and everything else, then we see something else. And then again, it's like that Whitney moment. There's that star quality. And that's the difference. There's an energy that comes with that. It's not just visual. And you've experienced that energy when you said you did, the transformation.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Dina, what do you believe are the key elements of a wardrobe that make a lasting impact?
For me, so there's a couple of things. I think like a wardrobe itself, so we're going to talk like the gamut of how you would do that. I believe in building a wardrobe that's kind of flexible with your life, that can take you everywhere. So for me, that looks like having like foundational pieces that you wear kind of consistently. And then I always like kind of what I essentially call your rock star pieces, which are the pieces that stand out, right? So, or the pieces that you become known for. So it's like you want to build something that kind of mixes and matches, but you want to have those standout pieces that set you apart or tell the story in a better way. You also want to have a consistency. So like whenever you see me, I may be dressed fancy or I may be just casual or I may be dressed, more like in my hippie vibe or whatever, but I'm always going to have like jewelry on. Like I'm known for kind of like my, people always like my necklaces or whatever, my jewelry. There's got to be a consistency with things so that wherever you go, you look like you. Because you ever go someplace and you see somebody dressed this particular way all the time, and then you see them in a different setting, maybe it's a wedding or it's someplace casual, you always see them dressing nice and casual, and they just look weird to you.
Right.
They're like, it doesn't make sense. A cohesive wardrobe and cohesive style means you can go anywhere and at any level and always consistently look like you.
Yeah, there's a thread. There's a thread.
Super important.
Yeah, there's a thread that's running
right.
through. Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly right. That's exactly the term I use. There's a thread that visual thread that goes right through it, you know?
Yeah, and you can always tell when it's not authentic to someone, because I think just energetically they carry that inauthenticity.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. You don't want people to look like they're wearing a costume.
Exactly.
You want people to look like they're owning it and they are who they are, you know? And sometimes that takes, a little bit of, like I said before, getting used to it. When you had your transformation, were you like immediately like, yeah, I get it. Like, I love this. This is the new me. And then you never went back, or it was just for like a moment for the branding?
No, I mean, when the whole thing was put together, it's like I found the look that we use for in that context, and it creates the impact, and it feels comfortable, and it changes, I guess, even subliminally, it changes my own relationship to people and everything. It's very, very interesting.
It was the musician styling in me that brought the styling out for Rich, because I'm a musician, I'm a singer-songwriter, so I have to be obviously with that look, so I'm very conscious about style. Even in the previous project that I was in, that was a big thing with us, that it was just very style conscious, because that is part of the whole package,
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's telling the story.
Yep.
Precisely. Dina, I want to ask you, when artists are starting this process and they're looking for, a stylist, what do you feel are the most important factors for someone to look for in selecting a stylist to work with?
One of the things that I think is super important is that, we're talking energy, is that, you connect with them immediately. Like, get on the phone with them, have a call, do something so that you guys can see if you vibe together, right? Like, I think that's important in any kind of working relationship, because style is a very
intimate or
personal. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that you have to know that you feel trust and everything else. The other thing I would say is that the person that you're picking as a stylist, everybody that they style doesn't look the exact same. So some stylists you work with, they have a thing, and that's the thing that they do, right? It's like, if you want to look like this way, just go to that stylist. Or like, I've had a client tell me, I like working with you because you're listening and you're doing what I want to do, rather than say, no, this is what you need to wear. Anybody that says, no, this is what you need to wear, look, and I tell that with just people who I've worked with for years, because like, I know them and they're like, I'm like, no. If it's important things, no. When you're trying to find somebody to help you figure out your style, because you have to get in the weeds about like, what is your intention and all the things, you want to make sure that person is listening to you and open to what you want to be, not what they think you should be. I think that's super important.
Absolutely. Dina, what are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when it comes to personal style, and how do you help them avoid these pitfalls?
I think one of the things is shopping without intention. So there's a few things. So shopping without intention. So if you don't know really what your style is, or, how you want to be, that's why we say like the mood board or the roadmap. Like, I tell people, like, you don't have to hire a stylist to do that. You can do that on your own, with an app or something. If you don't have something that you're going for and you want to consistently show up a particular way, you're going to be like, oh, that's cute. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's whatever. And your closet's going to be filled with a bunch of stuff that doesn't make sense and it doesn't connect. And so that's, I think, a big pitfall. Some people are just like, well, this is in trending right now. Like, I should get that, or this is this, I should get that. And there's ways, I always think people need to stay relevant and stay of the time. So people's style evolves, but you can't be, chasing every trend, because then you don't know who you are. And so that's one thing I think people fall into, this pitfall of just buying things willy-nilly without intention. And then the other thing I think is that people fall into a rut and they don't evolve their style. So it's funny. I went to see, it was like, kind of like, who was it? I think it was Steve Miller, Journey, and Def Leppard. I think that was the lineup. And I was like, Steve Miller, that guy is like 80 or something. I mean, it's crazy, right? But he looked so cool. He just had on black and he was against a white backdrop. The whole band was in black and they looked super cool. And then the other guys, I was just like, oh, you guys still look like you did back then. And so I think there's a way to keep your style, but make it relevant. And that's the thing, is you don't want to get stuck in a time period. that's what I think a lot of people do. They think, well, this is my image, and then they stay there, and then they don't progress it. It's like, no, that image is fine. You just have to change out some of the pieces to bring it and make it more current,
That totally makes sense. Dina, you've spoken about crafting an image that commands presence and translates into dollars. What does a commanding presence actually look like for an artist? And how do you coach clients to embody that confidently?
I think it can look different for everybody. So the truth of it is the presence has to be authentically you. We go back to that thing like we were talking about earlier. Like, it can't look like you're wearing a costume, or like somebody dressed you for this thing and it looks nothing like you. And I think it also has to be the consistency. You have to consistently show up that way and looking right. But also, it comes down to things like the fit has to be proper. Like, whether it's oversized or fitted, it has to be the right oversized or the right fitted. I mean, that's another thing. Like, if you want to have a presence, you can't just, have your sleeves are too long, or, your shoes are scuffed up. It all has to be like thought about with intention and put together in a way that speaks to who you are. And so what I would say, if you're saying, what I would recommend to people would be to sit and think it out. Think about, like, when you guys did that branding, you thought about how you wanted to show up and what you wanted people to see, and sit down, like, scroll through your phone and just save images, or you don't even have to do it, at once. Every time you see something that looks like how you want to be, put it in a spot and just look at that and start to break it down. What is it about that draws me in, because presence, people can have presence and they look like, nothing special, but then other people have presence. It doesn't have to be fancy, I guess is my point. It can be whatever is you. And that's what I think. I think when you're wearing something that is authentic to you, it just makes you shine better and shine brighter.
Indeed. Dina, we always like to ask this question of all of our guests and our insiders. Over the years, have there been any books, films, or documentaries that you have found to be particularly inspiring that you could recommend to our audience?
I mean, I'm always seeing particular things. Let me think.
Yeah, even fashion-oriented things. I mean, it doesn't matter. Whatever has influenced you and inspired
my
you.
head is like, I feel like it's constantly moving. It's so funny. Somebody just sent me the other day the clip of Crazy Stupid Love with Ryan Gosling and Steve Carell. And he gets, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but Carell recently gets divorced. He's kind of a dork. And then Ryan Gosling kind of gets a hold of him, like, get it together, man. And just takes him shopping. And all of a sudden his life, everything starts to shift. Just because of that, I think just seeing the power of that, is interesting. I can't think of what movies I've been, like the Vogue movie, that thing is on Netflix right now. Any of the documentaries about, like, the fashion houses I'm interested in. I'm just trying to think of what would be inspiring for somebody trying to figure it out.
There was a great film last year. It was a 6-part series, I think, on who was it? It was on Coco Chanel and Christian Dior, which was just magnificent. I mean, a really deep dive. It was like 6 parts that went into their whole thing of, the fashions and the war and, how they helped design military. I mean, it was really, really interesting. I didn't know if any of those kinds of things had.
Yeah. And those are the kinds of things that I like.
Yeah.
And there was also one on, like, Halston. Same thing, when they talked about him and Andy Warhol and Elsa Peretti, and they all kind of came up at the same time, and they all kind of played off of each other. And then the role of design within that. So yeah, those types of things are inspiring for sure. They inspire me and they keep me, I think anything I see, even just watching, something is like Emily in Paris. Like, it has nothing to do with, like, teaching me anything, but, like, just visually seeing something visually stimulating like that, like the colors and the use of texture and the use of fabrics, and is it fitted, or is it, is it flowing to the different scenes? So I feel like kind of any movie I see, when you see that those people are all characters and everything is made up, and those clothes are always telling a story, so even if you see a period piece, it's the same thing. It's like the rich people have particular colors and their clothes are all cut to their body because that meant they had more money, and the women had corsets, and whereas, the poor people, everything was muted because they couldn't afford the dyes for their clothes and things like that. So all of those kinds of things I'm constantly inspired by.
Yeah, it's, when you were speaking about that, it reminded me, the TV show years ago, Sex in the City. I mean,
Yes,
it
exactly.
had definitely, it had a fashion component that was very specific to each of those women.
And it was very New York.
Very New York,
yes. The basis of the story is
exactly.
all about New York.
And they've done like behind the scenes features with, Patricia, I forget her name, who did all of all of those clothes. And, it was amazing when you looked at like some of those outfits that were just, some of them were couture, some of them were just, extraordinary, ordinary things that they would wear,
And that's the thing is when you're saying some of them are couture, there's a level of that. And then some of them are just, the way that someone puts things together. That's part of it. That's part of a learning process, right? Someone can wear the same white shirt. 3 people can wear it 3 different ways and look, incredible one way, incredible another way, and incredible a third way. And none of them look the same. It's really about how people put it together. And I also don't think it has to take a lot of money to have a great image or style. I always think about kids that thrift. There's so much creativity and they look so cool. And, their whole outfit cost them, $15. I got this shirt for $3 and then these pants for $7 and then these cool, whatever. So it's sometimes if, people are thinking, well, I don't have the money to, do that. Just get creative, and again, I go back to just start looking at the images and looking at things and what are people doing and where can I go to get something that's not $1 bajillion but looks cool. Because the other thing about like vintage and thrifted is a lot of that stuff, you're going to be the only one who has it. My daughter does not like to go to Zara because she's like, because if anything you buy, everybody else in the room is going to have it.
Yep.
Like she's like, I've seen it.
That's what we did for Rich. We went to a bunch of thrift shops here in LA, which thank God we have a bunch of them. Buffalo Exchange. I mean, there was a ton of them. Goodwill.
Yes.
We went to a bunch of different stuff. And that's what I do personally when I go to do a shoot for one of my music videos or whatever. I'll just go thrift shopping because I know they're just one of a kinds,
I love that. So I didn't realize you were in LA. Did you guys go like on La Brea, the stores over there too? Like
we didn't go to any of the ones in La Brea, but we were mainly here in the Valley because here in the Valley we have like a strip of them that they're just all all kind of centrally.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we did. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing about getting thrifted stuff or vintage stuff or something, it's also broken in and worn in.
Right.
So it looks like it's already got like you didn't wear it in. It just looks like it's part of you,
Mm-hmm.
So I do love that. So it's not so shiny new, for some people, for some images and for some people. Other people, it needs to be sparkly, shiny new and have all of that. But for certain people that works really well. And I think musicians especially that can work really well.
Yeah, it's, as you were speaking about the element of, how certain people can carry it off and it's not about money, you're so right. I remember once an interview that Wolfgang Puck was asked, and the question to him was, Wolfgang Puck, the famous chef, and he said, the question was, what are the qualities that make a great chef, or is there a specific thing that makes a great chef? And I'll never forget his answer. He said, look, anybody can be taught to cook really well and to make good food. He said that is not that's the floor. He said what makes a great chef is one quality and one quality only, and all of the masters have it: imagination.
Yeah.
And that's what he says makes, a great, anybody can make potatoes, but can you do it with a level of imagination and uniqueness that nobody else can? Or can you bring something to it that is so compelling that it's you? And he feels that that's what he did, in his work that made his food so incredible. Yes, it did taste great and he's a good chef, but it was the level of imagination that he brought. And I thought that, and I never forgot that. I thought that was such an interesting aspect to, and you reminded me of it when you were speaking about that.
I love that. And I wholeheartedly agree. I love to cook and I love to dress people. And I agree. It works for both.
Yes, exactly.
One curious thing that
really does.
Yeah, one curious thing that I have for you, Dina, do you think that this is just a side question, sidebar? Do you feel like that you have a certain look? And what I mean by this, I think about directors, Michael Mann, Francis Coppola, their movies have like a certain look to them. Do you feel like when you're putting together outfits for your clients, is there like a certain thread in your work that you kind of say, wow, I've got like a certain theme? Not that you're trying to repeat the same thing over, but you know what I'm saying? There's a unique style to what you have. Do you feel like you have that?
I would say yes and no.
Okay.
I would say there are certain things that I go back to because I think that they work and I think that they stand out. And so I will specifically repeat those. I'm like, okay, this works for this client. This is going to work here too. Like I have a real thing. I just Howie Mandel. So I have a real thing for like cool blazers. And when I can't find them, I'll end up designing something because you can't find that many things out there that look interesting or different or whatever. But I find for other clients that works as well because they want to look cool. They have to be dressed a certain way, right? But they still want to be in jeans and a t-shirt. So I'm like, okay, the cool blazer is a thing that works for guys that want to look elevated. They have to go someplace, nice, but they don't want to look stuffy or like everybody else that they just went and bought, the same black blazer. So I do have things like that I repeat, but then I also, like I say, I very much take my cues from the people themselves. So a lot of that comes from my experience and how long I've been doing this. So I've done in my television world, it's always been reality. So it's been like talk shows, game shows, competition shows, things like that. And so like with a game show, we would even dress the contestants. So I would get a room full of 20 people that I have to dress in an hour and they all have to look like themselves. So there's nothing that's repeating there. I have gotten so good at understanding who somebody is. And I think it's through all of those people that I had to do so quickly because somebody can't say that's not me or I didn't feel like me and go lose $1 million because they didn't feel like themselves. So I try not to. I always take my cues from the person and what they feel. And so I find with men, sometimes there's more crossover than with women. I mean, same thing. There's certain women, like all women want to look like, the words you get are Jennifer Aniston, Meghan Markle, and like Amal Clooney. Like it's that particular look, But so I pull out the things that I need that I know work for somebody that wants to feel a certain way, but I don't bring it to every place now. There's definitely clients that I would not specifically not use those kinds of things.
Dina, what advice would you have for those who want to become stylists as a profession?
If someone's looking already, they're interested in fashion already, right? I would say styling people that it doesn't just fall into your, I got kind of lucky in my situation. It really happened very easily. And I just put that up to, it was supposed to be because I had a scenario where that's not the norm. I would say stylists, see if there's stylists that you can assist, be somebody's, can I start following stylists on Instagram, see if there's any around you that you could help with, see if you can do anything with them, but really just start building your muscle. Find your friends, find your family, find anybody. You're like, can we go shopping and can I try and dress you? And start taking pictures and see what you're getting right and see what you're getting wrong. And some stylists do. Sometimes be like, I want to do specifically just this kind of look. And that's completely okay. That's not what I do, but some stylists do that. And I would say just start practicing. That's truly how to go about it. And then, again, meet up with a stylist who is a working stylist that you can assist and see how the process works because there are processes and there is a way to have there's a whole business aspect of it as well, right? It's not just the fun part, it's the business part too. So all of that stuff. But yeah, I think anybody can just kind of start doing it. Just start doing it.
Dina, where can people best reach you? Is it through your website? Where can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so my website is dmcstyles.com and I'm on Instagram at dmcstyles. And on my website, you'll see I've kind of sort of shifted into focusing on men. That's a recent kind of change, but I still style men and women. Like I said, I've been styling them for 30 years. And so those are the two ways you can get in touch with me.
Wonderful. Dina, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This has been really informative.
Yeah.
And we have never, ever spoken to a stylist before. And in terms of, the depth and have an understanding of the role that, fashion and style plays, especially in an artist's career. So we thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I love talking with you guys. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. What a great conversation about a subject that we have never had on the show before.
Right.
And such an important one. I mean, Dina brought up so many interesting points that I had never thought of.
Right.
I mean, I love that whole thing that she went into at the beginning of, the 6-point process she takes her own clients through to get a sense of their perception. And then, and we had talked about that before, about how sometimes our perception
right.
and what it is we want to convey are not in alignment, If we were left to our own devices, it would be just, terrible. It'd be this crash. But one of the most important things that's really stuck with me about what Dina said is the whole element of having imagination in your styling choices. Imagination, she compared the importance of imagination in both cooking and styling. And that's something that really struck a chord because I remember once hearing an interview with Wolfgang Puck, who's an astonishingly brilliant chef. And, he's a very, very famous chef. And they asked him once, what are the qualities that make a great chef? And he basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said, a lot of people can cook food good. A lot of people can make food that has good taste, okay? He said, what separates the good from the great are those who have a high level of imagination. That's what makes you distinct in the world of food. Can you prepare scrambled eggs? Yes. Can you do it really good? Yes. Can you do them so that they're really memorable? Well, that takes a certain level of imagination. What you put in, what you don't put in, how you prepare it, how you present.
And the same thing applies to styling.
Exactly. And that's what I got from that I thought was so interesting.
It's the analogy that my dad uses all the time. You're cooking a paella and you have a bunch of spices and you're putting what are the right spices and what's the right combination to make that work. And I think that's what we're talking about here. And it goes into these ideas, segueing into this thing with wardrobe elements. Dina talked about having foundational and standout rock star pieces in a wardrobe and ensuring that there is a consistent style that reflects one's identity across different settings. This doesn't mean, that you have to be a rock artist to do this. She's just illustrating the rock style element to whatever world you're in and whatever genre you're in. And now thinking about it, I was remembering that she was talking about how she likes to have a discussion with the clients, talk about what makes them tick, how they speak, how they carry themselves. And that kind of builds the whole profile of what they're going to be putting and what pieces they're going to be trying. And
what's authentic to them.
Yeah. And I'm very sensitive to this because in my world with, the previous project that I was in, there was a big part of that. That was a big, there was a clear vision that I had and that we had as a group of what we were trying to go after. And, looked at other projects and said, okay, I like this, I don't like that. And how can we combine this? And when you're in a band element, it's different because you have different characters. I look at a band like cartoon characters, like a comic book. Every one of them has their own superpower. And so you have to accentuate what's that superpower in their look and to make that come out and still make everything cohesive. With a solo artist, you're dealing with one person. So it's just aligning with who you stand for, what, all the same things that we talk about and just applying it into a visual sense.
Yeah. Oh, without exception. It's getting into those nuances of what makes you become conveyed, what makes you have an understanding or your audience have an understanding of who you are. That's the most important element. And, in dealing with a fashion element, that is a very, very important part of the presentation of who you are as an artist in today's world. And we can point to many examples of that. Historically, whether it was Led Zeppelin or David Bowie or, Diana Ross and the Supremes or who, you got the sense of who these people were. Madonna, Michael Jackson. They had a very, very clear vision of who and what they are. And that element still resonates today.
Hey, Insiders. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We really appreciate it. To get show notes, links, and everything that was mentioned during this interview, head on over to our official website at MUBUTV.com/podcast/show notes. If you're enjoying the content and what we're doing here on the show, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts from. And don't forget to rate and review our show at iTunes. 5-star reviews are always welcome and help to ensure that our podcast stands out on the top-rated and new and noteworthy charts on iTunes and our space. You can also find us at social media at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter X, all ending with the handle MUBUTV, which is spelled MUBUTV. Don't forget to catch our flagship show, the MUBUTV Music Business Insider video series, airing every week on YouTube at youtube.com/MUBUTV. This show was produced and created by Rich Ezra and Eric Knight. Theme music by Disciples of Babylon, and be sure to tune in next week for another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast.